gods are losing our power. We believed Titans to be imprisoned forever. Now, they're breaking free. It would mean chaos. The end of the world.
What am I meant to do?
Perseus, I need your help.
This is for gods, not humans.
You will learn someday that being half human makes you stronger than a god.
The citizens in Greece and Rome had the influences from the mythology for leading their lives and reducing their fear of unexplainable phenomena. There are many stories of Greek mythology which are interesting enough to make the films. One of these interesting movies is The Wrath of Titans, because not only is what adapted from the adventure of Perseus, but also changed the idea about the gods and the Titans. The similarities and differences between the adventure of Perseus and the movie Wrath of Titans are plots, characters, and places.
The Wrath of the Titans have developed the plot from the end of Perseus' adventure. The Wrath of the Titan is also different from the story of Perseus in Greek mythologies in most scenes. As in the movie, Zeus visits Perseus and told him that the power of the gods are weaker because of the lack of blessing from humans. He needs Perseus' help to combat the passion threat, but Perseus refused to get involved. Zeus went to the underworld with Poseidon to join forces with Ares and Hades, but they were betrayed. Zeus was captured. Later, Perseus sailed to find Hephaestus. He had a map to navigate into Tartarus and led them to the door into the labyrinth. They received Zeus and refused Ares and Hades to free Kronos. At the end, Zeus turned to dust. Hades was mortal, and Perseus loved with Andromeda. Compared with Perseus' story in Greek mythology, there are many differences such as the mission of Perseus. In the Greek mythology, Polydectes convinced Perseus to behead the Medusa. Fortunately, Perseus succeeds in his mission with the help of Hermes and Athena. While he was heading to home, he held Andromeda from the sea monster. Perseus killed the monster. He married with Andromeda and took her with him back to Greece.
The similarity of Zeus in the movie and in the myth was that Zeus was the supreme god. He was Perseus' father and brother of Hades and Poseidon. His weapon was a thunderbolt. On the contrary, the relationship between Zeus and Hades were different in the movie. In the myth, Zeus did not have a conflict with Hades and Ares. But in the movie, Zeus was captured and attacked by Hades and Ares. Hades, god of underworld. The brothers had different traits both in the myth and in the movie. Firstly, in the movie, Hades was a jealous god who wanted to usurp Zeus. He attacked and captured Zeus to Kronos. Hades was not an evil god. He was just the god of death, who is unpitying and inexorable. For Poseidon, Poseidon is also one of the 12 Olympians. Poseidon in the myth and in the movie both used a trident as a weapon, and also had the same relationship with Zeus and Hades. Nevertheless, Poseidon in the movie was different from the myth in some ways. He was a god that can be dead in the movie, but he was immortal in the myth. Poseidon's mission was different because in the movie he involved with Perseus' story by helping and giving him a trident before he died. In the myth, Poseidon was not related to Perseus' story.
The next character is Ares. Ares is son of Zeus and Hera. He was the god of war like in the myth, The differences between the myth and the movie were that Ares accompanied Hades to hurt Zeus and Perseus. In the beginning of the movie, Ares was on the side of Hades, but finally, Hades turned to help Zeus, and then he was killed by Perseus. Moreover, Ares was immortal in the myth, but in the movie, he was not. The next one, Hephaestus. He was totally different. In the myth, Hephaestus was the god of metalworking, fire, building, sculpture, and volcanism. He created thunderbolt and trident. In the movie, the story told that Hephaestus designed the labyrinth, but in the original myth, it was Daedalus who created the labyrinth. And moreover, in the myth, Hephaestus was immortal, while in the movie, he was mortal. The second group of characters were the mortals, or the heroes. Perseus was a son of Dionysus. He was the demigod who killed Gorgon Medusa. The first difference was about Perseus' wife. In the myth, Perseus' wife was Andromeda, and their son was Electron. In the movie, Andromeda and Perseus were in love in the end of the story, but Perseus and Io had a son named Helios before. The second difference was the relationship between Perseus and Zeus. In the movie, Perseus had to help Zeus by defeating Cronus. In the myth, the relationship between Perseus and Zeus is not told in any story.
In addition, the quarrel about Perseus with Hades and Ares is also not told in the myth. The last was a mission. In the movie, Perseus had to go to Tartarus to help Zeus and fight with Ares, Hades, Minotaur, Cyclops, and Kronos. However, there was no story about this fight in the myth. Perseus only killed Medusa. Andromeda in the myth was the princess of Ethiopia, while in the Wrath of Titans, she was the warrior queen of Argos. Another difference was the Andromeda and Perseus' relationship. In the myth, Perseus protected her from the serpent, then they got married. In the movie, Andromeda went to the underworld with Perseus and struggled through many obstacles. Finally, they loved each other at the end of the story.
Minotaur was a monster, half wolf, half human. It was in the labyrinth where Daedalus was built. The difference was that the Minotaur, based on the myth, was related in Theseus' adventure only. In the movie, the Minotaur appears and attacks Perseus. Cyclops. The similarities were that they were the workmen of Zeus in the two stories. Cyclops were frightful monsters, shapeless, huge, and had one eye. They fought the weapon for God. The differences between the movie and the myth were that they did not hurt Perseus in the myth. On the contrary, Cyclops fought against Perseus and his friends, and they led Perseus to meet Hephaestus in the end, as is what told in the movie. In the rest of the Titans, there are two places that were based on the Greek mythology, like the underworld and the labyrinth. The similarity of the place in the underworld is Tartarus. Tartarus was built to hold the Titans, specifically Kronos. The labyrinth was built to imprison the Minotaur in order to prevent anyone from entering or exiting the labyrinth. But Tartarus and the labyrinth are a little bit different from the myth. In the movie, Tartarus was built by Hephaestus. It was designed with the concept of being impenetrable, and to maintain such a concept, Hephaestus built numerous fail-safe mechanisms, which is the labyrinth. It is composed of many stairways and ruined temples. It is an ever-shifting stone tower leading into the bowels of the earth, with thousands of doors and passages opening to the dead. In the myth, Daedalus built a labyrinth that was actually located on the Crete island. Therefore, the movie The Last of the Titans is significantly influenced by ancient Greek mythology. There are so many things that the writer of the movie borrowed from the Greek mythology. The characters and creatures are completely taken from the actual myth, but the details and the story are almost completely different. Plenty of new ideas were added to reform the actual story from the original myth. In fact, the actual Greek mythology had been told and retold for several times by several writers to keep them more and more interesting.